Welcome to Lesson 4, a model of the proposal writing process. This model lesson will demonstrate writing a proposal based on the following assignment topic. Write an essay in response to John Paul Stevens' statement on ignorance and prejudice in which it relates to the concept of tolerance. Ignorance, that is to say, fear of the unknown, is the source of the most invidious prejudice. So we're going to be writing a model proposal based on comparing this quote to tolerance, right? The concept of tolerance, basically. Step 1 of the proposal is the thesis. So the quote is, ignorance, that is to say, fear of the unknown, is the source of the most invidious prejudice. We cannot obviously write that word for word. What we want to kind of put it in our own words, and we want to paraphrase. So the paraphrase of the quote is going to be, being afraid of the unknown leads to the worst kind of bias, a barrier to tolerance. So this paraphrase right here is us putting the quote in our own words. As a result, we're able to craft the thesis here. In this essay, I will discuss how John Paul Stevens' statement, ignorance, that is to say, fear of the unknown, is the source of the most invidious prejudice, relates to the concept of tolerance, right? That is ultimately the purpose of the paper. That's step 1. Step 2, the proposal is selecting subtopics. I typically use a graphic organizer that looks something like this. I put the proposal in the middle and I put all of the subtopics around it to remain organized. So let's go ahead and begin with a graphic organizer. We start with the thesis in the middle, right? The relation of the quote to tolerance. And we build on that thesis with our subtopics. Subtopic 1, ignorance of personal priorities. Subtopic 2, ignorance of cultural background. Subtopic 3, ignorance of religious conviction. You may have different types of ignorances that you want to include in your paper based on your experience. These are just those that I selected for the proposal model that I'm creating. Proposal components. So there are typically 4 components within the proposal. The first one is going to be the topic of the essay. This is when you want to be as specific as you can and tell your reader what you're writing about. The second part of the proposal is going to be the background information. This is when you answer the question, who cares about this essay, right? Who am I writing for? Who's my audience? The third part is a plan for the essay. So this is where you define your subtopics one at a time. And basically that's letting your reader know what you're going to cover in the paper in more depth. The fourth is a vision of the effect on the reader. So what's the purpose, right? What do you want the outcome to be after a reader reads your paper? So here we are, right? Topic of the essay, being as specific as you can. The first sentence states the topic of the essay, an application of the quoted material to the issue of tolerance, right? This is going to be an explanatory essay in a summary and response format. So here we are with our topic of the essay. In this essay, I will discuss the meaning of John Paul Stevens' statement, ignorance, that is to say, fear of the unknown, is the source of the most invidious prejudice, and explore its application to the concept of tolerance. So this is my topic of the essay. When we move on to background information, in this section, right, we're answering the question, who cares? So we're making it clear that we've already thought about what we're going to write about, okay? Here we are with our background paragraph. Stevens made this statement in discussing the opposition of some New York residents and others across the country to the building of an Islamic community center and mosque a few blocks from the site of 9/11 tragedy. As a former Supreme Court justice, Stevens is used to looking at analytically and making carefully considered judgments. I want to carefully consider how Stevens' statement can apply to situations other than the mosque placement controversy. I think that Stevens is focusing not only on people's unwillingness to open their minds to new experience and alternative possibilities, but also their fear of even considering possibilities other than those with which they are familiar. That brings into play the tolerance piece. Are you only tolerating what you're familiar with? All right, part 3 is a plan for the essay. So this is when you define your subtopics, right? Our essay is going to take up 3 different types of ignorance in relation to tolerance. And Note that some of the examples may be based on personal experience. This has to do with the tone of the essay, which is impersonal, but also takes, personal reflection into consideration. Here is our plan for the essay. I will use some examples from my own experience and also hypothetical ones to show the ways in which ignorance blocks tolerance. There will be a section on ignorance blocking tolerance of cultural difference, a section on ignorance blocking tolerance of religious conviction, and a section on ignorance blocking tolerance of other people's life priorities. In each section, I will explain what the unknown is that is feared, how I experienced or could experience this in my life, and how I attempted or could attempt to overcome the fear and grow more tolerant. So this is where I'm defining my subtopics and explaining how my explanation of each of them is going to unfold in my essay. The last part of the proposal is the desired effect on the reader. In this section, the writer suggests the hoped for effect of the essay on the reader, right? Beyond just giving information, the writer wants to encourage reflection. So here we are with the desired effect. Through the descriptions of what I've lived through, the hope is that I will be able to open a discussion in the minds of other people about how they might reconsider their own experiences. That's part 4. So let's review. There are no hard and fast rules for writing a proposal, right? These are just suggestions and a good way to organize your thoughts. If you're writing it as a part of an essay assignment, you'll likely have an essay sheet with a description of what your teacher wants, but this is just one way that you can approach it. Again, remember the 4 types or the 4 parts of the proposal: the topic of the essay, background information, a plan for the essay, and a vision of the effect on the reader. This helps you to kind of keep track and organize your proposal accordingly. All right, for your exit ticket, you're going to write an essay proposal that addresses the dark side of tolerance. So this kind of has to do with the model, but it's a little bit different. Consider the attitude of someone who says that tolerating cold weather is easy. Is this different from saying, I like cold weather? Yes, it's very different. Now consider a person who says, I am tolerant of slow drivers. Is this different from saying, I think slow drivers are, to some extent, driving badly? Most will agree that to some extent, the person is implying that meaning. For this assignment, think about similar statements people say that at first appear to show an attitude of tolerance, but really imply another meaning, possibly even of intolerance. For this, we're going to use Gandhi as an example. So this kind of gives you a little bit of background to who he is. He was the preeminent political and ideological leader of India during the Indian independence movement. Gandhi was not the originator of the principle of nonviolence, but he was the first to apply it in the political field on a huge scale. The concept of nonviolence and non-resistance has a long history in Indian thought and has made many revivals in other contexts. Gandhi explains his philosophy and way of life in his autobiography, The Story of My Experiments with Truth. So that just gives you a little bit of background about the person whose quote we're going to be using in the exit ticket. Gandhi once wrote, I do not like the word tolerance, but could not think of a better one. Tolerance may imply a gratuitous assumption of the inferiority of other faiths to one's own. Whereas ahimsa, which is a rule of conduct which instructs us to do no harm, teaches us to entertain the same respect for the religious faiths as others as we accord to our own, thus admitting the imperfection of the latter. This suggests that the need to be tolerant of something may apply to a superior attitude toward what is being tolerated. So it's like not only do we tolerate it, but we think that we're better than what we're tolerating in our acts of tolerating it. So here's a little bit of thought process to support you in creating your proposal. You're going to think of at least 3 situations where people might claim a tolerant attitude without realizing that they are claiming a superior position. To what extent is this type of tolerance as bad as or worse than tolerance? So here's your assignment. You're going to write a proposal for this essay. Read the assignment, state your thesis, and paraphrase any references to quoted material in the assignment. Think about the assignment and decide on subtopics. Try to think of 3 for the purpose of this model. Show that you have a position. Start writing your proposal with a statement of your thesis. Show that you know the context of the issue. Give some background that will answer the question, who cares? Perhaps also answer the question, who is Gandhi and what did Gandhi mean when he wrote this? Show that you have a plan by giving a description of the parts of your essay, both the content and how the content will be presented, and show that there is a broader significance. So give some vision of the desired effect of your essay, right? More than just providing information. And that is the assignment for lesson 4 on a model of the proposal writing process.